You say, oh, he's a Tory, so he doesn't even have a right to talk about it.
No, I don't. That's not what I said.
That's literally what you said.
I said there are other things he could have said to deal with food poverty than people need to register for a cooking course to use a food bank.
You said because it's the Tory government
since 2010,
that he doesn't have a right to talk about it.
The rates of people using food banks has skyrocketed. Are you suggesting that people forgot to cook?
But are you suggesting that just because the rates have skyrocketed, that he doesn't have a right to try and solve the problem? That is the sort of pointless left-right division in this country.
Can I respond to it? Can I respond to it? Dan, address that to me. Let me respond to it. This isn't the way to solve it. If you want to solve it, there are other ways. Look, we solved it during COVID, right? In COVID, benefit sanctions were suspended and universal credit was topped up.
Yeah, but
and do you know? And hang on, please let me finish the point. And during that period, the use of food banks dropped.
Yes, I understand. Hold on. You just want higher benefits. I understand that's the left answer.
I hesitate to tell Amy she's wrong because people are entitled to opinion, but she's wrong in so many ways. She's looking at a Tory government in 2010 that took more people out of the tax system than any Labour government ever had. If you want to talk about the history of this country, every Labour government, bar one, has caused more unemployment than it found. And here's the deal. The best thing any government can do for its population is make sure they have the education and access to opportunities and they have the economy to operate in. You're talking about a Labour government who were going to nationalise everything. That would have devastated our economy. We would be on our knees if that was the case. Food banks exist. It's a bad thing and we can do more about it. But the people on the left who misrepresented this story, they don't help poor people. If you want to help poor people, you have to discuss their problems. To just vilify an MP who's trying to bring this to the fore is ridiculous. And that's why anybody on the left who's at home now outraged should be ashamed of themselves. They should be trying to have this conversation properly, not turn it into an attack on an MP who actually comes from this background and actually knows what he's talking about.
An MP.
I wonder if the journalists who wrote that nonsense have any real knowledge of what it's like to actually...
No, of course they don't, because they're members of the London Metropolitan Elite.
Food poverty doesn't need to exist. The existence of food banks is innately shameful.
It's not, though, because food banks are designed to be a safety net. Where inequality exists, there will always have to be safety nets to help people. You cannot eradicate inequality altogether.
You sound like a Victorian justifying a workhouse.
You sound unrealistic. Not everything is sunshine and rainbows. There are always going to be...
And Amy, do you not understand that the reason why a lot of people need to use food banks is because they might have alcohol dependency issues, for example, gambling addictions? You have to understand that even when people are given enough money to live, they won't always choose to spend their money in the right way. And what Lee Anderson is saying is when these people go to a food bank, let's try and give them some more information. Absolutely, let's help them at the time, but let's make them think about, OK, maybe there's a way. Maybe there is a way that I can feed my family without needing to rely on a food bank.
Instead of just blame government, because when you tell people it's the government, it gives them no incentive to try and change things for themselves. It is about self-sufficiency.
And for society,
and also,
we have to... Sean, final word to you.
It isn't about blaming the government. If you want people to do well, you've got to make them self-sufficient. We all know that if you give a man a fish, he eats one day. You give that man a net, he can live for himself. And the best people are people supporting the poorest people to be independent going forward.
30p won't buy you a fish, though, just so you know.